Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews That Don't Matter with Jessica Hitt. My name is Jessica Hitt, and on today's episode, you've read the title, we are talking about Pacific Rim Uprising, the newest blockbuster to hit theaters. So let me preface this with saying that I actually never saw the first Pacific Rim, directed by Guillermo del Toro. So I kind of went into this not knowing much. I kind of know the basics. It's big robots fighting monsters named kaijus. That's basically what I know. And while I don't think you need to see the first Pacific Rim to see Pacific Rim Uprising, I definitely think it would help because while the movie does a really good job at kind of setting the tone for it and kind of explaining stuff from the last film, which was, 8 years ago or something like that? Felt like a long time ago when that first one came out. I do think that there were some moments that I was just like, I don't quite understand who this person is or what they actually do, but I'm just gonna go with it. So I had to do that a couple times, whereas if I probably saw Pacific Rim, I would be a lot more like, oh yeah, I'm right into this, I know exactly what's going on. But no, I decided not to see the first Pacific Rim, and I was like, let's just go into it. Let's see what it's like. This movie takes place 10 years after the events of the first Pacific Rim, and it follows Idris Elba's son, played by John Boyega, who I will have to say, I love John Boyega. I think he's a great star. I think with things like Star Wars and Pacific Rim, he really shows just how charismatic and likable and really, he could be a really great action star. And I'd really like to see him in more things like action-y, And to be honest, I think that John Boyega is kind of up there with kind of taking the reins of this generation's next great action star. I personally think Dylan O'Brien's up there, John Boyega's up there. There's definitely a couple people that are kind of in the younger stage, more like around my age, as opposed to the people in their 30s and in their 40s, and then Tom Cruise, who's in his 50s and still doing all of these movies. But I do think that they're kind of the neck and neck. For me personally, I think both of them are absolutely fantastic action stars. And I just think that John Boyega just has... he's so charismatic. He really is. He's so likable. I liked how in this movie he was a way different character than Finn in Star Wars. I think that he kind of has that edginess and he's kind of like, I don't want to do any of this. What's great is that he never, in the entire movie, he was like, I still don't want to be here. I really don't, but I'm going to do it because no one else can. So I do actually like that. This movie also stars Scott Eastwood, and I'll tell you what, this is the first movie that I saw any personality whatsoever from Scott Eastwood, because almost every role he's ever done that I've seen, and it's been a couple, I've seen a few of his movies, he's just so boring. He has absolutely no charisma, the opposite of John Boyega. But in this movie, I think that they do try to give him some personality. Not quite there for me, but it is a start. It is a start to making Scott Eastwood more likable and not just this guy who is just perfect looking, And this also falls around sort of like a scrapyard girl who is younger, and John Boyega's character kind of pulls her under his wing, and she's okay. She's fine. I liked the cadets she was with and kind of having these kids have to be in charge of saving the world. And I like how in the movie, they're still not as polished even when they have to go fight at the end of the day. They're just kind of they still mess up. They still, make all these mistakes, and they're not the greatest because they shouldn't be. They're not done with their training. I think that she's fine. I think her and John Boyega worked really well together. I actually think they had really good chemistry on screen as sort of a big brother, little sister type of thing. I think it worked really well. And I do think that, quite honestly, I'd go see another one of these Pacific Rim movies. I think it's good enough to have a threequel. And they definitely set up for it at the end of the movie with a sort of, I wouldn't call it, I didn't stay until the very, very end of the credits because I just didn't care that much. But right after the initial title comes up, Pacific Rim Uprising, they have a sort of quick scene with John Boyega and the bad guy of this movie, and they definitely set up for a sequel or a threequel. And you know what? As bad as this might sound, because I think Pacific Rim Uprising is a good film. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm not going to be thinking about it too much. It's not amazing, but this whole thing did kind of remind me a little bit of Independence Day Resurgence in the way that it really was just setting up for that next movie. And I don't particularly like that in movies. I think that every movie should be contained in itself, without, having a sequel. I mean, MCU's slightly different because the next superhero thing's gonna be coming out. And I think comic book movies, they can do that. But I think when you have things like Tomb Raider, her kind of setting up for more installments, while it didn't bug me as much as Pacific Rim Uprisings did, it still kind of devalues the movie. And I think the movie Pacific Rim Uprising is better without that little snippet. Because to be honest, who knows if we're ever actually going to get another Pacific Rim Uprising movie. This movie made a little less than $30 million, like $25, $28 million opening weekend, which for a movie the size of what it is should make more. Yes, it did very well internationally, I believe, which of course helps and saves it. But these types of movies should be doing a lot more. This is basically like a summer blockbuster type film. I mean, I think summer starts in March these days with all of the movies coming out in March. But it didn't quite do that domestically. I mean, it did fine. It overtook Black Panther, which was really kind of is it going to do that? Because Black Panther has been so great these past few weeks. And it really didn't beat it by very much. But that's the thing, is we don't know if we're actually going to get a Pacific Rim Uprising 2 or a Pacific Rim 3 or whatever they want to call it. So it's tough. That's why I don't like it when they end it oh, we're going to come to you type of thing. I don't like that. And also, that draws the comparison of Independence Day Resurgence when Liam Hemsworth's character is yeah, we're going to take the fight to them in space. And you're just don't give me another one of these movies. But really, that is the only similar thing of Independence Day Resurgence and Pacific Rim Uprising. Pacific Rim is a much better film. It is actually enjoyable. For the most part, it's a contained story that you don't necessarily need to see the first one, even though it might help. It definitely it carried over a lot of characters from the first one that were just I just had to accept that they were a big deal in the first one. And one thing I will say is there is a definitive bad guy in this movie that's kind of causing a lot of problems. It's very obvious from the start who it is, and they don't really lead into this big reveal at the end of the movie that it's this person. They do kind of slowly get you in. You're okay, this guy's not quite all there. But you don't know the exact reason behind it. And I feel they could have done something really cool with that, with the way that they made this character into being the bad guy. I wish that they would have explored it more. And it could have been more of a psychological thriller moment, but no, they didn't do that. They didn't really go off it very much. And I really do think that they missed the mark with it. I'm not super pissed off about it because I'm really not that attached to this series. It is a little disappointing. I'm okay, well, another bad guy who's just out there to destroy the world, but why? Why do we need to destroy the world? And to be honest, that could have been answered in the first movie that I never saw, exactly why these alien creature things want to destroy Earth, but it's not explained in this movie, really. But overall, I think the characters were all really fun. There is one character that kind of just makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's the mechanic named Jules, who you don't know if she likes John Boyega's character, Scott Eastwood's character, and it's just pointless. And I have a feeling she filmed a lot more scenes that just hit the cutting room floor, because what we got from her makes literally no sense, and it's just why is this even in the movie? Why? And I really I don't like it when female characters are just there to serve a male character's story. I've never liked that. Even as a kid, I'm just yeah, I don't like you as a character. I didn't understand why I didn't like them as a character, but I just thought they were boring. So, they could have, I just have a feeling there's more to her character that isn't in this movie. I think it was in the script probably, and it was probably filmed, but they just had to cut for time because, it's a longish movie. It's not it doesn't feel that long, but you know that you're in there for 2+ hours for sure. So I feel there is something more to that character. So that's why I'm not completely writing her off, because if there is a third movie, I think that she'll probably have a way bigger part in it. And I always liked the idea of having a mechanic girl, badass type character, as long as she's developed and isn't there to service a man. And that's kind of how I feel like the younger girl is, who is like coming into like the junkyard girl who becomes a cadet. She is a sort of mechanic badass girl who's not there to service a man. She's there to service herself and kind of have a calling to this type of stuff. And also, what I will say is there's definitely stakes to this movie. There are stakes. It's not like everybody's invincible, and it's not like that the Jaegers, the big robot creatures in charge of killing the kaiju, are completely undefeatable. Like, they show that they're definitely weak in some senses. And while I don't quite understand the whole thing with two pilots and then neuro pairing and stuff like that, like, I don't quite know about it too much. I just kind of got the gist of it, I think. So I don't remember where I was going with that point whatsoever. So overall, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a fun action flick that I was definitely eating popcorn with. I wasn't actually eating popcorn because I arrived a little late and I didn't want to miss the previews. But in theory, I would be eating popcorn during this popcorn flick. I enjoyed it. I really love John Boyega. I think Scott Eastwood sort of impressed me, and I, won't write him off as just a boring ass person anymore. But I will not be like clamoring for the third one. I will, definitely want to see a third one. Not clamoring for it. Won't be devastated if it doesn't happen. And once this week hits with Ready Player One, I'm probably not going to be thinking about Pacific Rim Uprising that much. That's about it. But if you want to have fun at the theater, go watch this movie. Definitely fun. And if you want to see an action flick with robots and not dinosaurs, but monsters, kaijus, destroying cities, then this is the movie for you. Okay, I hope you guys liked this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what are your thoughts on Pacific Rim. Should I go see the first Pacific Rim movie? Should I see it? People say they really like it, but it didn't necessarily do like crazy numbers at the box office. I don't remember when it came out. I don't even remember it coming out in general. Also, I do have a question. Pacific Rim, is there like a comic book or another movie or just a regular book before the first Pacific Rim? Or was that Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim the first of its existence? Because I feel like there's more material about the whole Pacific Rim anthology than just that first movie. Right? I could be completely wrong and like mixing another series with this one, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe. I make videos Monday through Friday for the most part. Also, don't forget to subscribe. I literally just said that. Oh my God. I'm just gonna go before I completely make a damn fool of myself. Okay, bye.